Right, so I'm still Tor Lillqvist, and I'm now have a slightly longer talk about some font features that I've been working on for a few months now. This one. And the problem is that when a user is loads a document that they have got from somebody else, perhaps, they see that the document uses fonts that don't exist on the cool server, and the document looks bad, and the user thinks that it's the cool server's fault, even if it's their own fault. And the solution is then either we could just tell the user that these fonts are missing from the server, so you need to somehow make sure that they are there. Or we could also tell the server administrators that they need to get these fonts, or both. Or the user could tell the admins. And then the admins need to purchase licenses for these fonts, or get them if they are free, get them otherwise, and add them to the server. And how this has been now implemented is that you don't need to restart the cool server, but it can be done on the fly. And these new fonts will then be visible for sessions or for documents that are opened after this. And some details then. It actually is not that easy to figure out which fonts are missing from a document. Well, few things are easy in Professional Collabora Office, so that's not surprising. And there are actually two kinds of missing fonts. Either you refer to a font that is completely missing, or the server has that font, but for some reason it's not exactly the same version, but some glyphs are missing. And at which point can we then get information about missing fonts? Unfortunately, while loading the document, that is not possible. But actually that seems to not matter, because when we have loaded the document and start rendering it, it goes through the whole document anyway, and you get this information quite soon after that. So to the user, if it's like a sensible sized document, it will see that he gets the information, they get the information right after loading the document. And we use here, or I use this API that was added some years ago that more or less does what we need. But there are some complications. The document formats, at least ODP and I think also XML, they don't refer to fonts as like in actual font file names that exist as separate files, but they use more generic typeface name, family name, and then a flag that it should be this typeface in italic or in bold and italic, etc. And this API I mentioned, when it tells which fonts have been substituted by another font, it records it that way. So it only tells the family name. But then when it tells what it has been substituted by, it also includes the style name. And it does this even for fonts that are not actually missing. It means that it reports, for instance, that Liberation Serif has been substituted by Liberation Serif / regular, which of course is the same font. So we need to filter out these false positives. And sadly, these style names like regular, they are not standardized, but they can be any arbitrary name that the font designer has chosen.
Yeah. Yes.
Like normal or Roman or book,
Yeah.
and probably others too. So some heuristics is needed, and probably as this feature gets more used, there will be more heuristics will be needed and added. And also, of course, LibreOffice includes and Collabora Office includes a set of these well-known metric-compatible open source fonts that are used instead of, or can be used instead of some proprietary Windows fonts. And those don't need to be reported either. And now then to the other aspect of this, adding fonts to the cool server. As I said, we want it to happen without having to restart the server. And it's implemented so that you can have a JSON file that simply lists some URLs that point to individual font files, and then the cool configuration file points to this JSON file, and we check once a minute if this JSON file has been modified, and in that case we read this list once again and download new fonts or notice if some font has been removed and handle that also accordingly. And also if some of these font files is like, if the admin knows that it is being worked on and there are new versions now, then he can use a tag for it that can be like a timestamp or whatever he wants to use. And one thing that we want to do for security reasons is we want to have these downloaded fonts be visible only to the for-kit process, not to the individual kit processes. And each kit process handles each document that is being edited. So that means that we can open the font files only in the for-kit process, which actually is the process that runs or starts running the LibreOffice core, and then the kit processes continue using the core APIs or core functionality. And there is an API in VCL, which is the graphics library or graphics level inside LibreOffice core, to add a temporary font, and that is what is used. But even after that, then when fonts actually get used by a document and the text is rendered, it is opened many times by different external libraries. I mean, these are like the font config, FreeType, Cairo, and Halfbus. And did I forget some? I think these four are the ones that want to open font files. And as these font files are not visible to the kit process, this is then problematic. So we need to patch these libraries, the source code of them, and include these patched versions in Collabora Office when we want it to be used by Collabora Online. And it happens so that we just open the font files once, and then these file descriptors are inherited by the kit processes. And the trick we used is to, instead of telling VCL that the font file has a specific file name, we just use a fake file name that can be easily recognized, and it then contains the number of the file descriptor. And the libraries then just duplicate this file descriptor and read the stuff they need from that. And those who knows their Unix basic philosophy know that when you duplicate the file descriptor, you still have only one shared file offset pointer to the file. So if these libraries would each would read a bit from here and then do something else and later would read a bit from somewhere else, this would not work. But luckily they seem to work so that they only read like one thing from the library, from the font file, and then not anymore. And all this happens not in parallel threads, so it works nicely. And that was it. So, and this functionality should be available like soon, in a few weeks, probably in the master branches of online and in 2205. Thank you.